phone calls, no messages. Nothing but junk mail and overdue bills to keep me company. Seems nobody wants to hire a real private dick anymore, a professional like me. A guy who does the detective work nobody else wants to do. A guy who wears hats and walks around in a black and white world. I began contemplating a more profitable line of work, like politics.
We are the show you want to know. It's time to talk to you.
All right, folks. Welcome to the Wednesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show here on AM 830 WCRN Radio Central, where you can join the conversation for the next hour at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. Lines are open and available. And, of course, our text line is also running at 617-297-8388. You can text it like anything else and appears on the screen here in studio in real time. As I broadcast from the Cameo studio, so the Cameo camera is on. There are multiple ways to listen. We do stream 24/7 to the TuneIn app, like thousands of other radio stations do. So you can take us anywhere or tell Alexa to play WCRN, and she'll do that, no questions asked. I am streaming to the station's Facebook page, YouTube channel, as well as my social media platforms, Twitch TV, X, Facebook, LinkedIn profile, and, of course, Rumble Live. 508-871-7000 to reach the studio. Ted A. behind the glass flying the board back at HQ, and he'll get you set up and into the studio. We got a lot of things to talk about. Halfway up through the show today, though, we'll be joined by Michael Golder, who is the host of a new show here on AM 830 WCRN Sunday nights from 7 to 9, Blind and Beyond radio show. We'll talk to Michael about the show. Its first debut show on WCRN just aired this past Sunday. Every Sunday, 7 to 9, you'll be able to join him. And it is a live call-in participation show, so it is for everybody. I believe he pretty much says that this is your show. So we'll hear from Michael after the 1:30 break, rather. You heard at the top of the news, breaking this morning, the verdict on Ryan Wesley Ruth, the 59-year-old man from, Hawaii, North Carolina. He was doing a lot of traveling around the globe, wasn't he? Convicted of attempting to assassinate then presidential candidate Donald Trump back on September 15th in 2024. And this was at the Trump International Golf Club in West Palm Beach, Florida. Ruth hid in the bushes, right, along the golf course perimeter, about 12 hours. Armed with a SKS-style rifle equipped with a scope, and a Secret Service agent spotted the rifle barrel protruding through the fence. And he fired shots, prompting Ruth to get out of there. Right? He fled without firing, clearly intended to. He was arrested shortly after that on Interstate 95, where authorities found the rifle, ammunition, handwritten note offering $150,000 bounty to anyone who could finish the job, and a list of dates when Trump was expected at the golf course. So prosecutors described that act as, meticulously planned and attempted to kill Trump. Now, motivated, of course, by politically, his reasons politically. And the defense highlighted his mental health struggles, including bipolar disorder. Where is it going with that? But the judge, so the sentence came down today. That's what broke. And it's life, right? And talk about deterrence. And when you try to have either you do commit a political assassination or even the attempt of a political assassination, I think the messaging in the deterrence needs to be very strong there against political violence. So we see this come down. The sentence is life plus 84 months. It sends a very strong message that attempts on political figures will face maximum penalties, especially amongst this rising threats to elections and leaders. And it underscores the Justice Department's stance that such acts are an assault on every one of us, no matter our politics. And as we have this parallel trial going on with the alleged assassin of Charlie Kirk. I don't understand some of these decisions coming out. What say you on this? 508-879-7000. Coming out on this about the camera position and being able to see his face and showing that he's locked up. We all had to watch Charlie Kirk be assassinated in cold blood in front of us. And now they're worried about the camera angle in the courtroom for the alleged perpetrator. Not following this. And I hope this judge turns out to be a decent judge and not some flake on there. But going back to Ruth, this was clearly premeditated, organized. And this guy, remember, he went to Ukraine, and then he was going to countries in the Middle East trying to recruit people for the Ukrainian war. I never understood, because by all outward appearances, he wasn't a wealthy man by any means. He had basically nothing in his accounts when he was arrested. But he seemed to be able to travel the globe with ease. Flights. And if you start adding up the flights, we're talking about thousands and thousands of dollars in air travel. Plus, of course, lodging and eating it. I don't understand how he did this. I always feel like we're missing something. There's something else going on here, folks, beyond just Ruth's situation. So what is it? I don't know. But sentence came down, life plus 84 months. What does that say? It says you're dying in prison. All right, now they are coming out. Of course, they're going to appeal this and so forth. But the charges, I mean, if you look at attempted assassination of a major political candidate, plotting to kill Trump as a candidate, that's life imprisonment there. Possessing a firearm in furtherance of a crime of violence, using the gun during the assassination attempt, that adds on. Assaulting a federal officer, aiming the rifle at a Secret Service agent, that's 20 years for that. Felon in possession of a firearm and ammunition. Ruth had prior felony conviction prohibiting gun ownership. That's a 15-year sentence just for that. Possession of a firearm with an obliterated serial number. Yeah, you can't wipe the serial number out on your firearms, guys. So the rifle's serial number was removed. That's a 5-year term right there, just for that. And he was arrested on site and initially charged with gun-related offenses. Additional charges, including attempted assassination, were added after the evidence review. So Ruth, gone. He'll appeal, but he probably will spend to his last living day in federal prison. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. 508-871-7000. So something interesting has happened in the last 24 hours when we get to the surgery of children and adolescents when it comes to transgender surgery. There's been a key position statement on gender surgery for children and adolescents that came out yesterday, the American Society of Plastic Surgeons, the ASPS. And the other day, I briefly talked about the $2 million malpractice verdict for a detransitioning person, right, who did the transition and then is going back. And they won a $2 million malpractice verdict on this. And today, the statement, or rather yesterday, comes up. We're talking about it today, but from the ASPS. And the headline change here, ASPS now explicitly recommends delaying gender-related breast, chest, genital, and facial surgeries until at least age 19. And I really think that's what most people who were against this were saying. I was. If that's what you want to do with your body and your life at some point as an adult that has some life experience and the ability to make that decision, that is your decision to make. This, and the term browbeating was used in some of these testimonies by doctors. Now, I go back to the fact that I said it back then, I'm saying it now, and I will maintain, always follow the money. Remember that if somebody goes under a trans surgery, they're a patient for life. You are required with hormone treatment for the rest of your life. You're required with constant doctor's appointments, and there are certain exercises and things that you must do every day to maintain these things. Remember, your body, when you're born, is born with the DNA of one of the genders. Yes, there are situations, right? But put a pin in that. You're born, this is what you're mapped out to be. And if you're fighting that with hormones and surgery, your body doesn't understand that. So it's trying to heal itself, and it's trying to live the body life it was born to. So you're fighting nature in those cases. Again, as an adult, you can make those decisions. But allowing the surgery to happen to 14, 15, 16-year-olds, when we don't allow them at that age to make any other decision in their life, was beyond asinine to me. So now the American Society of Plastic Surgeons is saying 19. I mean, I'd go so far as saying 21, but at least at 18, they're a legal adult. They can't even enter a contract under 18 that could be upheld in court. So their stated reasoning for this, their logic on this, and how ASPS frames the issue around evidence, quality, ethics, and on mental health outcomes. And there are emerging concerns about potential long-term harm. No kidding. In the irreversible nature of surgery in a developmentally vulnerable population. And I think that's extremely key there. Because at 14, 15, 16, if you feel like you're in the wrong body, I think that needs to be explored, and you need to spend a little time trying to figure that out. This quick jump to surgery, permanent, long-lasting surgery, is asinine, folks. It needs to be done by an adult, and again, follow the money. We're talking about decades of revenue to the pharmaceutical companies and the doctors involved in this. But folks, we're coming up to our first break here on the Wednesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. That's 508-871-7000. Lines are open and available. Hey, and don't forget, you can also text the show at 617-297-8388, 617-297-8388. Stick with us. We'll be back in 2 minutes, 10 seconds on the other side.
And here's some exciting news for the Blind and Beyond Radio Nation. Hi, this is Dave Hillebrand.
I'm Harsha Trivedi. You spoke, we listened.
And now the Blind and Beyond Show has content on YouTube. No, I'm not kidding. Starting Monday, February 16th at 7 p.m., you'll have a new way to listen to Blind and Beyond content with the Blind and Beyond Show on YouTube. You can still listen to Michael, Lynn, and the rest of the gang as you usually would. And now you can listen to Hershey and Dave as they talk to interesting people in the blindness community. It's the Blind and Beyond Show.
If you're as passionate about healthy eating as I am, you'll love New Kitchen. New Kitchen is a culinary gem for health-conscious food enthusiasts. They are committed to using the freshest ingredients from start to finish. Their ethically sourced organic coffee not only satisfies your taste buds, but also supports sustainability. Because New Kitchen uses fresh, local produce, there is nature's goodness in every bite. New Kitchen's refreshing cold-pressed juices, smoothies, and acai bowls are packed with vitamins and nutrients to keep you at your best.
Speedway Shopping Center, 290 Turnpike Road in Westboro. It's like sitting down with your family for an authentic home-cooked Italian meal. From intimate dinners to catering for events of all sizes. From pizzas and calzones to classic Italian dinners. Every meal at Ziti's is one you'll remember. Head on down to Zeddy's, 290 Turnpike Road in Westboro.
All right, folks, welcome back here. Second segment on the Wednesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show at AM 830 WCRN. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. 508-871-7000. Lines are open and available. Joining us at the 1:30 mark will be Michael Golder, who is the host of Blind and Beyond, a new show here Sunday nights from 7 to 9 on AM 830 WCRN. Let's go to the phones. Mark's been waiting patiently. Hey, Mark, what say you?
Well, lo and behold, I turn on the news this afternoon, and guess what? The Washington Post, okay, the Washington Post announces mass layoffs. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. Not surprising.
Go broke.
Yep. Well, did you hear what they attempted to do, Mark? The editors and the staff at the WOPO were asking Tom Hanks and Meryl Streep to intervene to Jeff Bezos on their behalf to save it, because they played the parts in the movie about the Washington Post. Woo! And I don't know how that thought process works, but they thought because Tom Hanks played the editor and Meryl Streep played the owner, that somehow they could save it. I mean, it's like childlike. It's silly. What are they going to do?
More than silly. It's more than silly for the people who don't have a job anymore at the Washington Post. You know, Trump said it best: "Get woke, go broke," and they're going broke. They ain't the only one that's going broke too. I got news for you: CBS is hanging on by a thread too. CBS.
Yeah. Well, look,
remember Channel 38? You remember Channel 38?
Yeah, 38, sure.
It ain't on the air no more, is it?
Actually, I didn't even know that. I just...
Yeah, I don't think it is.
How about that?
Either that or their transmitter is broken down and they don't have the money, or they don't want to put out the money to have it repaired or put it back online. So maybe the FCC just pulled their license. They're in dire straits, CBS.
Right.
Economically. So is BZ in Boston.
Well, some of these, I think, wasn't it them? Who was the one with Stephanopoulos that had to write a $16 million check because he lied about Trump? ABC? Okay. So, yeah, I mean, and look at, he's gotten money from a couple of these networks because, again, I go back to this, and Mark, thank you for the call. I appreciate it. Always a good point. I go back to this. I've said this a zillion times, folks. It's the arrogance of these people, because for so long, they never had anybody checking them. They had no pushback. They had no follow-up question. They could say anything, and Republicans, for whatever the reason, never punched back, never came back with anything. Then comes Trump, bull in a china shop, and he strikes back, and he strikes back harder, deeper, faster than they've ever dealt before. And when they come on and they say things, when Trevor Noah the other night at the Grammys made the comments about Trump and pedophile and so forth, he needs to do a retraction, or he's going to be on the wrong end of the lawsuit there. Yeah. So these companies, man, that, I'm sorry about people going to lose their job, but I have no sympathy, because it goes back to, it's the editors. The editors allow them to have this biased, slanted news coverage. They don't put fair and balanced on there. They don't challenge them. They allow them to go on with this absolutely unvetted, unverified information. And the marketplace, as far as I'm concerned, has spoken, is speaking, and they're not going to survive in this world. And when you see the cuts, I don't think a penny of taxpayer money should be going to PBS or any of those. We're a radio station. We're commercial. We don't get federal tax dollars by any means. So that is how things work, folks. I have no sympathy for them. They should have been better at their jobs. Maybe they would be keeping them. All right, 508-871-7000. Let's go to the phones. Phil is waiting patiently. Hey, Phil. Afternoon.
Hey, Joe. So I just wanted to follow up. You're talking about the transgender surgeries and that recent lawsuit.
Yeah.
what a lot of people may not know is there's something called your prefrontal cortex, and that's kind of the executive part of your brain where you make, logical decisions of what's right and what's wrong. And that's not developed until your early 20s to mid 20s. So basically, anybody below the age of 20, they're really not playing with the full deck. I mean, they're running purely on emotion. I saw they interviewed these young girls, liberal girls, and they said, would you allow a 14-year-old kid to have a tattoo? And they said, no, they're not able to make that kind of decision for the rest of their life. But then they asked them if they allowed to do a sex change operation, and they said yes. So it's like,
right. Where's the logic? There is none. Not a trace of logic in that. The thought process that they have in there, I can't even follow. I do not get it. You know you can't put ink on your sleeve, but you can remove your breasts or change your genitalia. Like, that is beyond comprehension to me. It makes no sense. And we need more of these protections, because the whole idea of saying that someone under 18 can't enter a contract, can sign a contract all they want, but it's not enforceable in a court of law because they don't have, to your point, the ability to make those decisions. Yet we're putting that decision into them. And the other part of this, Phil, is the fact that they were all okay. The medical industry, schools, and everything else were okay with hiding these decisions from parents. We're taking parents out of it, telling them it was dangerous sometimes to tell the parents. I mean, in the 0.0001% of the time, maybe, but you do not do this to the rest of the population. I don't understand that. Again, the thought process is beyond me, Phil. But yeah, to your point, the brains aren't fully developed at this age, even into their 20s. It's all about the money, Phil. You know as well as I do what's involved with transgender surgery, for the cost of it, the medications, the doctor follow-ups for the rest of your life, and the things you need to do to your body to keep your body in the gender you chose, opposed to the gender you're born with.
Right. Okay. Thanks, Joe.
All right. Thank you, Phil. Appreciate it. Always appreciate the call. And Phil always brings something very interesting to the table. So this ASPS already signaled some skepticism back last year in August. They had not endorsed any organization's practice recommendations for adolescents and described the evidence base as low quality or low certainty back then. And prior to us here in America starting to move in this direction, European countries were ahead of us on this. And the left always is saying, oh, look at Europe, follow Europe. Europe's a good thing for all of this indication, except for when it doesn't fit their narrative. Then they want to ignore what's coming out of Europe. In this $2 million award, Fox Varian, she's 22 years old now, and she had a double mastectomy at age 16. Think about that. And the other part of this, and I know we've talked a little bit about it on this show, and I know you probably heard it, is how doctors and so-called professionals for gender studies and so forth have positioned it with the parents. Basically have scared the parents to tell them, if you don't go along with this, if you don't allow your child to do these complete, altering, permanent, unreversible type of surgeries at 16, you will have a child who will commit suicide, as if it's fact that they will commit suicide because of what you're doing to them. And I think anyone who gave that kind of advice, their medical licenses need to be reviewed, their credentials need to be reviewed. I think that is crazy. But in this case of Fox, double mastectomy at 16, the jury found the providers liable. Now, this is reported to be the first detransitioner malpractice case to reach this kind of outcome in the U.S. Not to say there haven't been them. There have been these cases, but they have been settled. They reached an agreement before getting to the trial and an award. This is the first one to go full trial, and then a jury awards something. The New York Supreme Court in Westchester County is the court that heard this. And the defendants specifically was a psychologist, Kenneth Einhorn, and the surgeon, Simon Chin, were the ones specifically sued in this. And they broke it down, the jury, as damages with $1.6 million for the pain and suffering, and another $400,000 for future medical expenses. That's how we get to the $2 million. So now Fox had the double mastectomy. There is surgeries that could be done to artificially correct that to a degree. It doesn't get into whether or not genital surgery was done here. I can't find it in any of the research articles. But the medical pendulum is swinging back toward caution. I think that's a good thing. And again, American Psychiatric Association say, hey, no breast, no chest, no genital, no facial surgery for minors. There's the facial stuff too. So it's not just the surgery, the genitals, but there's other facial things that they do to permanently try to make a face look more feminine or conversely masculine. So what say you on this? Is this the right way? Are we going to look back at the last several years in the history of humankind and think to ourselves, what the hell were we thinking? In 50 years, 100 years, or somewhere down the line, are people going to go back and go, what collectively happened to the human race at that time? How did they think this was somehow okay or the better thing to do with their children? And they allowed this to happen. And think about that, a 16-year-old. How many incredibly astute, mature, wonderful conversations have you had with a 16-year-old lately? I'd be impressed if you did. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. We're going to be taking our break in a few seconds here. When we come back on the other side, we should be joined by Michael Golder, host of Blind and Beyond, a new show here on Sunday nights on AM 830 WCRN, 7 to 9 on Sundays. And it's pretty good. I listened to it this week, and it's there for participation for the listeners too, cited and unsighted. We'll get into the details. Stick with us. Back in 2 minutes, 2 seconds, folks.
Time now for the forecast from the Boston Independence Group Weather Center. Call Jerry Doherty today at 877-772-1776. Retirement is within reach.
I'm meteorologist Sherry Spear, and here's the latest Boston 25 weather on Radio 830 WCRN. High temperatures in the low 30s with a mix of sun and scattered clouds this afternoon. We'll keep it quiet and dry overnight tonight with temperatures back in the singles for many of you. And highs tomorrow will repeat. We've got lower 30s again, quiet weather again. We've got some light snow expected Friday just along the coastline with some ocean effect snow and a widespread, let's say 1 to 3 inches of snow on Saturday. So it's going to be a light snow during the day. I'm meteorologist Sherry Spear, and you can hear Boston 25 live for the morning drive weekdays on AM 830 WCRN.
More live and local radio is next. Stay tuned to Radio Central 830 WCRN.
Perner Logging and Land Clearing, fully equipped with state-of-the-art equipment to handle all of your lot and land clearing needs, whether it's 1 acre or 100. They regularly service customers in the local area and will travel to neighboring communities and beyond to get the job done. Now, whether you're doing new construction, renovations, or clearing land for a new development, the Perner Logging and Land Clearing team of experienced personnel makes small or large jobs run efficiently, giving them the ability to always keep the competitive edge. They'll quote your job from something small to hundreds of acres, factoring in all aspects, including the wood salvage value, if any. In addition, they have the right equipment for each size job, making for the most efficient job site possible. For every job, Perner Logging and Land Clearing, make sure the client's goals are the main objective. Call Perner Logging and Land Clearing today for a free estimate, 978-270-9916. That's 978-270-9916.
And here's some exciting news for the Blind and Beyond Radio Nation. Hi, this is Dave Hillebrand.
I'm Harsha Trivedi. You spoke, we listened.
And now the Blind and Beyond Show has content on YouTube. No, I'm not kidding. Starting Monday, February 16th at 7 p.m., you'll have a new way to listen to Blind and Beyond content with the Blind and Beyond Show on YouTube. You can still listen to Michael, Lynn, and the rest of the gang as you usually would. And now you can listen to Hershey and Dave as they talk to interesting people in the blindness community. It's the Blind and Beyond Show.
All right, folks, welcome back to the second half of the Wednesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show at AM 830 WCRN. I am Joe Mangiacotti, and you can join the conversation at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. Lines are open and available, and don't forget our text line is also running at 617-297-8388, 617-297-8388. Text it like you would anybody else that appears on the screen here in the studio in real time, and of course, we're streaming to all my social media platforms at Joe Mangiacotti Show. And joining us now is Michael Goldard. And Michael is the host, or one of the hosts, of the new Blind and Beyond radio show airing here in AM 830 WCRN Sunday nights from 7 to 9 o'clock. And his personal journey with vision loss later in life, and the show's mission to inspire, motivate the blind and visually impaired community. That's the format they use. Trivia, and they have guests of music from the 50, 60 prizes, and even job opportunities are shared here on WCRN. So let me invite into the conversation Michael. Hey, Michael, good afternoon, and thank you for taking time out and joining us.
Well, thank you very much for having you. Thanks very much for having me on the show.
No, my pleasure. Your debut show of Blind and Beyond aired Sunday night here on AM 830 WCRN Radio Central, and every Sunday night from 7 to 9 it will happen. But Michael, I'd like for listeners who may be tuning in for the first time and maybe haven't heard the show, can you share a bit about your own story and how you became blind later in life and what's inspired you to launch Blind and Beyond radio show as the only commercial radio program specifically for the blind and visually impaired in North America?
Well, yes, I have to correct you one thing. It's not just North America. We have the only commercial radio show in the world for the visually impaired and the blind community. I started April, will be 11 years has been on the radio. I went blind later in life. Believe it or not, due to stress. Stress did me in. It caused me two problems. At 65, I got stressed. Well, I've been stressed all my life. I was in the garment industry in New York, and I live in Florida. I used to commute every week, Monday. I take the plane from Fort Lauderdale to Boston. Well, first of all, I would fly into Newark every Monday. And I'd be in New York every Monday, leave every Thursday night. And I would travel around the country, whether it be to Boston or Chicago, everywhere. I travel all over the country, selling to the major department stores. And one day I went, believe it or not, I was on the turnpike going from Cleveland to Detroit. And I had one of my salespeople with me on the car. And I just said, would you mind pulling over? I want to read the paper. So I said, I would like you to drive. And the person started driving, and I started reading the paper. And believe it or not, I went bingo, bango, blind. That's it. Fast story.
That fast? That
fast.
instant?
Never had a problem with my eyes ever in my life. Okay? I only used reading glasses. I got reading glasses at the age of 60. So from 60 to 65, all I had is reading glasses, nothing else. And due to stress, I went blind. And then 2 years later, the stress did me with cancer. And I had prostate cancer. I beat the prostate cancer, but I couldn't beat the blindness. So I've been blind ever since 65. So now it's been basically going on 16 years that I've been blind.
I'm amazed it's that fast. It wasn't a lead up. It wasn't a gradual loss. It literally like a light switch.
No gradual. Bingo, bango. That's it.
Damn. Let me ask you something, Michael, because you became blind much later in life. And I'm assuming there's got to be there's an adjustment for you opposed to somebody born blind or not sighted, who their world, that's what their world is, that they grow up with that. Now, what do you find is the major difference there? You've had all those years, decades of sighted, and then you have to learn to live in a world without sight. Does that cause some psychological issues for the difference between the two? Is there some major hurdles people have to overcome?
Well, let me just say it this way. I've been very lucky. I've had a fabulous, great wife. Because I had that situation, I only went numb. But a lot of people that do not have my situation, having a great wife, they have major problems. They may go to drugs. They may go mean. And there's a big mental situation when you go blind at a later age. When you go blind at birth, if you go blind, let's say at the age of 10 or 12, or let's just say before the age of 30, it's not as bad. You don't have that meanness. You don't have that big situation. But when you go blind later in life, it's like, why me? The resentment, it's just a terrible feeling. And it was a situation that, because I went numb, I did not have all the bad feelings, but it was just the main situation. Now it's my cane and me, and everywhere I go, I have my cane. That's my navigator. I don't go anywhere without my cane. Sure. And the bottom line, many people call it a stick. It's not a stick, folks. If you see somebody walking down the street that's tapping on the floor, you know it's a cane. And don't call it a stick. People resent that are blind. Don't call it a stick. Call it a cane. It's a cane. And if somebody ever asks you for directions, or they ask you where the men's room is or the women's room, or I say, don't ever say it's over there. That's one of the worst things in the world to say to a blind person. It's over there. Over there means nothing to a blind person, because it doesn't know if it's straight. It doesn't know if it's left. You don't know if it's right. So you have to say to the person, well, it's to the right. It's to the corner. It's let me show you. A lot of times people will say, if I say, where's the men's room? They'll say, well, I can take you to the men's room and I can wait outside. I say, you don't have to wait for me. Just, if you would, just tell me really where it is, so I'll find it. And that becomes a problem. A lot of things like that when you're at a new place. But go ahead. I'm listening.
Michael, let me ask you about that, because I'm curious about some of the etiquette of this, right? So one thing you just mentioned, you refer to it as a cane, not a stick. And I've never heard it as a cane. I've always thought it was a blind man's or a blind person's cane. What is the etiquette when a blind person does ask you for directions and you're going to escort them? Are you to put your hand forward, your elbow forward? Do you offer your shoulder?
You should put if the person is on your right, you put your right elbow out. Put your elbow out, and they should take care. They know, the blind person knows to take your elbow. If you have if you're on the left side of you, you put your left elbow out, and they'll hold on to your elbow. But most of the time, people just need good directions. Most people that are blind like to be independent. Most people really would like to find it themselves, but with good directions.
Absolutely. Now, you mentioned you've been on 11 years now, well over a decade. What do you see as the biggest value it provides to people who are blind and low vision or visually impaired?
Oh, that's an easy one. That's the easy to tell you. The word is friendship. The word, when most people that are blind stay home a lot. And a lot of times, a lot of people that are blind are alone. And they need companionship. They need somebody there. Plus, there's another issue. When I was sighted, I never knew a blind person. And that's a big issue. When I was sighted, I didn't know anybody who was blind. Now that I'm blind, I've met a lot of people, especially on the radio. But a lot of people that are blind could be living in Cambridge, or they could be living in Worcester, they could be living in Brookline. And they would like to hear another person what their story is. What's their story? And what happens is, a lot of times the person is down. They feel down. And what happens is, when they hear another person's story, they feel better about themselves, because they realize they're not alone. They don't want to be alone. So what happens is, we have a talk show. And I always say, we talk, you listen. You talk, we listen. So call in, let's hear your story. And people call in and we talk. And that's a big part of our show, is having friendships with one another. People that become friends with somebody in California or Chicago, and they just like to talk to another person or hear another person talk, that they don't feel alone. The mental condition is a big part of the blind community. How to get them up, how to get them to smile. There's a great song that's one of my favorite songs. I really recommend it to anybody who's down, feels down. It's by Nat King Cole. The song is called Smile. If you've never heard the words Smile by Nat King Cole, you got to listen to Nat King Cole sing Smile. After that, you'll start smiling yourself. That's a big part of the show. To get people to laugh, get people to smile. That's a big part of what we try to do every Sunday night at 7 to 9 Eastern Standard Time.
Great. And now that you're on WCRN AM 830 every Sunday night, 7 to 9, as you said, first of all, how does it feel to be part of the WCRN family alongside other shows like mine or Frankie Boyer? And what are any memorable moments or favorite guests that you've had on the air that you found to be just very entertaining or amusing calls?
We've had many different people. One that comes to my mind was someone who's playing hockey and who's a goalie who's blind. Now, anybody knows anything about hockey, and when you're blind, that's very interesting. I would say, especially when a goal is coming right at you and you're blind. Think about it. It's very interesting.
Yeah. How can they possibly do the job? Is there a special puck? How do you do that?
It's a special puck that they put something in the puck that makes a noise.
Got it.
So it's still coming at you, but it makes a noise. It's coming at you. So you have to think fast, to do things fast. But that's one thing about the blind people. People who are blind usually react very quickly to many things, and they're the old story is when you lose one of your senses, another sense picks up.
Absolutely. Well, it always, you go through the ATM drive-in machine and there's Braille on the buttons. Right? You know that they mass-produce the machines, but it's still kind of, you get a chuckle that they have Braille on a drive-through ATM machine. But
there's 14 million people in this country that are visually impaired and blind. So those 14 million people, a lot of them know Braille. I do not know Braille. And the other thing that's terrible with me, besides I don't know Braille, I don't know computers. So I don't know a computer. So that becomes another minus with me, that I don't know all those things.
Got it. Well, Michael, I want to thank you for taking time out, jumping on for a little while with me. And again, this Sunday night, 7 to 9 on AM 830 WCRN. How many stations now?
We have 8 AM and 3 FMs.
Perfect. Fantastic. And continuing to grow. Michael, thank you so much. Enjoy the show. We'll be listening Sunday night.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much.
All right,
don't
great.
forget to listen to the Blind Beyond Radio Show on WCRN. Thanks. Bye-bye.
There you go. All right, folks. Yeah, check it out. You can, of course, find him on WCRNradio.com. He's listed as one of the shows there. The replay link is up and running if you want to go back and listen to last Sundays or any future shows. But we're going to take our third final break here on AM 830 WCRN. Back in 2 and 2, folks. Stick with us.
Looking for a station that brings you all sides of the story? Tune in to 50,000 watt powerhouse WCRN, where the left and the right meet in the middle. Whether you lean left, lean right, or just want to stay informed, WCRN has you covered with diverse voices, lively debates, and thought-provoking discussions. From politics and health to pop culture, you'll hear it all right here. Radio Central, where opinions from both sides come together for the conversations that matter. From the center of the dial, the center of New England, and the center of information, AM 830 WCRN, Radio Central.
When it's time to move, don't just move, Mighty Move. At Mighty Movers, they have been helping families relocate safely and affordably since 2017. Whether you're going across town or across state lines, their experienced crew brings muscle and the hustle to make your move stress-free and budget-friendly. They specialize in local and long-distance moves, from cozy apartments to big family homes. They handle it all with care, speed, and professionalism. Got a piano? Gun safe or hot tub? No problem. Their specialty moving services are designed for the heavy stuff most movers just won't touch. So why settle for basic move when you can move mighty? Call 978-793-6165 or visit mightymoversma.com, mightymoversma.com, and start your move the mighty way. Mighty Movers, moving you forward one mighty mile at a time.
WCRN Radio is thrilled to bring back a legendary voice, and now you can help tell the stories. Paul Harvey captivated millions with his unique style and unmistakable voice. By sponsoring the rest of the story, your brand can become a part of this rich tradition, and it links your business with a program that people love and trust. So don't miss this unique opportunity to grow your business while becoming part of something truly special. For sponsorship details, just go to WCRNradio.com.
All right, folks, welcome back here to the fourth and final segment of the Wednesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. 508-871-7000. Lines open and available, and text line 617-297-8388. That was Mike Golder. He is one of the hosts of Blind and Beyond. You heard on the promos. You can now check them out on YouTube. We do have them listed as one of the show hosts on WCRNradio.com, and they do have the replay link. So if you missed last Sunday night show, you can listen to it right on the station's webpage, or even download an MP3 file for offline listening. And every Sunday night, 7 to 9, they'll come your way. Pretty interesting show. You know, he said something about not knowing before he became blind, not knowing blind people. And I heard him say something about that to Frankie Boyer, I think, one day last week. And it got me thinking about that and realizing I have known blind people, but I don't have any friends that are blind. And it's something I never thought about. So I guess it's something that when it touches your life through a family member, and I've had family members as they get older, the eyesight deteriorated, but not so much as gone blind, or really knew anybody blind from birth or young age. So that was it made me stop and think about that. All right, 508-871-7000 during the conversation. Let's go to the phones. Tyler's waiting patiently. Hey, Tyler, what say you?
Hey, good afternoon, Joe. How are you, bud?
I am well, thanks.
And so am I. Hey, Joe, here's a funny quick example of why you have Braille. Drive up. I've many times go on my bike, and people can walk up. They can feel it. They just don't necessarily drive a car. People forget that part.
Are you on speakerphone, Tyler, for a second? Because it sounds a little echoey.
No, never, Joe. I'm on a really crystal clear headset. You're on the switch to just for.
All right, got it. Okay. Say again about the drive. I mean, I don't think it's, I find it mildly amusing. And actually I saw, and a friend of mine pointed out that in Guatemala, there's a big bridge, right? And this new like beetle back thing that they did. And somebody thought it was a good idea to put the name of the bridge in Braille, but it's like 20 feet off the ground. And each bump that's the Braille is about 4 or 5 feet in diameter. So they created this Braille signage, but impossible for a blind person to utilize it. It was just, it makes you wonder how many millions of dollars did it cost to do that? To what end? What purpose did that do? But look, there are aspects, I think, about being blind or not sighted that the sighted we don't think of every day, and until you're in that position. But there's a lot of things that I guess we take for granted, Tyler.
Yes, sir. Which is why my opening statement of the Braille at the drive-up ATM for myself on a bike or a person who walks, that's how we can feel it. We don't all drive cars. We still can walk around and ride a bike. But headset's dead. You can't hear nothing, and something else comes out of the air. Joe, what's going on over there, bud? There's a serious problem with my phone and what I'm saying being altered. Are you aware of that? I have copies of it.
No, I don't know anything about anything being altered. I know that even if you're on a headset or something, you sound echoey, right? So sometimes I can't catch what word you're saying because I thought you were on a speakerphone. There's just kind of an echo to it.
It's not your fault. It's not Ted's fault. There's something above us that control all our electronics. Something to do with gigahertz. So did you get the opening joke about how I don't drive up in a car, I walk up, or I ride a bike? Did you get the whole point there?
But are you sighted or not sighted?
Well, I'm in between. I'm fuzzy eyesight. I have keratoconus. So I'm just saying whether I'm sighted or not, Blind people can ride a bike, or they can walk up and feel it. They don't have to see
Yeah.
it. You get that part?
Well,
Because you're
but
blind, you
that's
wanna go
true.
fast.
I agree with that, except the drive-through, they actually have signage, not to walk up. You're not supposed to walk up to a drive-through. It could be dangerous if a car goes to pull in and don't realize there's someone standing there. But the point is, I just a little chuckle thing. Those machines are mass produced, and when they're making the machine, they don't know whether they're going to place it at a drive-up ATM or they're going to place it in a vestibule at a bank. Point is, it would cost too much. There's no reason to make ones without Braille. Just make them all with Braille, and that way, that the kiosk, it doesn't matter where it is. But yeah, I mean, there are a ton of observations and jokes that are made about blind and so forth. But Michael's situation, to go blind at 65. I mean, but to go blind in the way he did, and I didn't have the time, but I really did want to ask him if there were any signs of the stress that was causing this prior to going blind. And he must have had hypertension or something. When I get a chance to have him on again, I'll ask him. But that's a little scary to think about that. That could happen to you at that age. You have to learn a whole new set of skills, right?
Yes, sir. And trust me, my smell and my hearing are a lot better. And Joe, listen, nowadays it's easy. You just list the trend, the top 10 reasons. My neighbor in Florida, she had the COVID shot, and 6 months she was ended up blind. They think that may have been it, but we discussed that there's going to be certain reactions it's called genetic proclivity and propensity. And if one or two people react fast, but hundreds of thousands or millions of people are benefited for it. That's a reality that you don't understand unless you're a lawyer and a doctor. And trust me, people like you and I laugh. I make jokes about how they give the lawsuit at night for the pill they sell during the day. But the reality is that's called the odds statistic. We all know what that means. And the reason later on in life may happen, you have macular degeneration, you have nutrient deficiency. You have the top 3 reasons, diabetes. And then from there, a variety of what you call garden variety. But the top 3, 4 reasons are usually nutrient and condition related. Exactly what you're saying.
Yeah. But I mean, stress, stress is the silent killer, as they say, right? I mean, it causes high blood pressure. It causes actual a change in your chemistry. It can be, unfortunately, I'm not a stressful person. And I thank goodness for that. Given my siblings, there's 2 of us are very easygoing, 2 of us are very high strung. I think all the stress and nerves went into 2 of us, and the other 2 are pretty laid back, easygoing people that don't get excitable easy. And I'd rather be that person, I think, than dealing with the stress, because that is a sign.
Right. Well, this is so simple. We all jumpstart a car. You put the wrong black on red, and it sparks. So this isn't complicated. Think, we're spinning bags of electric soup called proton and neutron. The electron sends the message. And if it's so intense, it's so aggravating, you get stressed, you get a headache, you get an ulcer, then a bleeding ulcer. And 6 to 10 minutes after you die, your brain is still cranking. There's something going on here, and it begins and ends in how you think. I watched my only brother stress, my other sister stress, and I was heading the same direction, but seeing people shrivel up and die, and you notice the consequences. And if you're not able to articulate and create a solution, you become part of the problem. Now you're wrapped in a victim of it, repeating generations. The key thing is you have to remember, no matter what you slice it, it's how you react. And I've seen some terrible things, but I've seen a lot more good than bad. And I've seen the terrible things that people change and turn into good people, and watch their whole path and direction change away from what I witnessed and to what they're supposed to wonder and discover. Do something good and be positive. Don't become a victim of it. That's what works. I just talked to the lady who owns the restaurant, smartest, kindest lady in the world. They know how to play politics, and they're very smart at it. To put people in charge, like Lori and you and people that know what they're doing. That's the big difference.
Okay. Absolutely. All right, Taylor, thank you for the call. I appreciate it. Always a good call. Always a good point to be made there, folks. Hey, don't forget, this show is turned into a podcast, so you can always subscribe to it wherever you get your podcasts, like Spotify, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, etc., Google Play. And we always do stream it to multiple platforms. It's later aired on the AUN TV network. The abduction of Nancy Guthrie, by the way. We're following this story. This is something. We only have a couple minutes left, but 84-year-old mother of the NBC Today co-anchor Savannah Guthrie. Now they've examined the scene. It's now a crime scene. Blood trails, signs of abduction, and a ransom note going to TMZ. This is a crazy story. Yet they don't think that she was targeted. But that part of the country too, and you don't see this in mainstream media all the time, folks, right? That there are home invasions and abductions that happen near the border, without opening that can of worms, that happen, and it doesn't get out there. So is this just a random coincidence that it's a celebrity's mother, or was she targeted? They don't think she was targeted in this thing. But there is signs of forced entry at the home, blood spatters, right? Drops were found outside, possibly inside leading to the driveway. Origin of that is unknown. Is it belong to Nancy, the mother, or is it someone else's? And then part of the Ring doorbell camera was missing. It was ripped off. Potential tampering to avoid, of course, surveillance. And the Apple Watch that's synced to the iPhone, that was left behind. But she also had the pacemaker. And like a lot of people, I don't know if you don't have somebody who's had a pacemaker yourself, they all kind of work on Bluetooth technology now, and they're synced to your phone, just like when you get the diabetic patch thing, right? You actually use the Bluetooth to sync it to your phone so you can monitor it. So this thing stopped working or stopped syncing at 2 a.m. on Sunday. So that could be a good indication of the timeline of when she was taken. And there's no indication that she left willingly. She couldn't walk or run far due to health. The woman was on a walker and had challenges, mobility challenges. So she's not just going to get up and leave smoothly at 3 a.m. The ransom note states, I'm getting a note here, the ransom note states that information about the mother that is not known yet. Yes, the note that went into TMZ apparently has information about the crime scene, we call it, that wasn't released to the public. So this is scary and fascinating at the same time. We'll see what happens here. Major twister on this is, again, multimedia outlets like TMZ first, plus the local Tucson stations, KOLD, possibly some others received these ransom notes earlier in the week. We'll keep an eye on this, folks. But that will wrap up today's edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. Back tomorrow afternoon, 1 o'clock, same bad time, same bad channel. Enjoy the rest of your day, folks. Joe out.